Hey, I'm Ryan, and this is my brother Daniel, and this is Rolls in the Family. And today we are reviewing the Quacks of Quedlinburg, a push-your-luck bag-building game for 2 to 4 players that plays in about an hour.
And to give you our recommendation right up front, if you want a super accessible game that combines the thrill of pushing your luck with strategic bag building, you will definitely want to check out Quacks. And real quick, we want to note that the pictures in this review show the Geek Up upgraded chips that replace the original cardboard ingredients with these thick quality plastic tokens. And these aren't a necessary purchase, but they also aren't cheap. But we're not going to lie, they also might be our favorite component upgrade we've ever made to a game. We've linked to them down in the description if you're interested, but we just wanted to let you know about that ahead of time. Now let's get into the review.
In the Quacks of Quedlinburg, you are a quack doctor trying to create the best potions over a 9-day festival in Quedlinburg. Each round, you draw ingredients from your bag and add them to your potion. Many of the chips have special abilities that trigger when they are placed, and the more ingredients you add, the more victory points you receive, as well as coins for buying new ingredients for future rounds. But be careful, not all ingredients are beneficial. If the numbers on your white chips add up to more than 7, your potion immediately explodes, forcing you to forfeit either your victory points or your coins for that round. After resolving, scoring points, and buying new ingredients, everything resets for a new round. After 9 rounds of potion making, the player with the most points wins.
Quacks of Quedlinburg has 2 distinct decision spaces: pushing your luck while making your potion, and choosing which ingredients to purchase. With the lure of greater rewards, you will constantly be computing your odds of busting and evaluating if continuing is worth the risk. Not only does going further yield you more points and coins, but the furthest non-exploding player also gets to roll a bonus die for a random reward. Other variables add interest, such as a flask that can be used to return a white chip that was just drawn, or specific spaces that will earn a ruby if you end in front of them. Rubies can prove hugely valuable in the long run, as spending 2 can either refill your flask or permanently move your starting space forward by 1.
Once you have stopped or exploded, the strategy shifts to evaluating the best chips to buy based on your available coins. Do you load up on pumpkins and red chips that go further when pumpkins are in your potion? Or do you try to focus on buying high-value chips so that you can combo them with a yellow chip that could double their value? Do you spend all your coins on a single high-value chip, or buy 2 cheaper chips of different colors? Every game has a custom set of ingredient abilities, presenting a new puzzle of how to best approach the customization of your personal bag.
The Quacks of Quedlinburg plays great with 3 and 4 players, as well as 5 if you pick up the Herb Witches expansion. 2 players is fine, but if you lose some of the group dynamic, and a runaway leader feels even worse when you're the only player losing. It is worth noting that we have actually had great success playing with more than 5 players just by teaming up. It's fun to collaborate with a partner on when to push your luck and which ingredients to buy. And Ryan has actually played multiple 10-player games with 5 teams of 2, and everything I've heard is that it has been a great time.
The theme in Quacks is quirky and fun, but ultimately a bit of an afterthought as you focus on the mechanisms while playing. The random drawing of chips from the bag is going to introduce a heavy luck factor, but you might be surprised how much skill plays a part in the final outcome. A lot of decisions are made over the course of the game that can improve your odds of winning, and in the long run, better players tend to win more often.
With the bulk of the game consisting of drawing from your bag simultaneously, there's not a lot of player interaction. There are a few ingredients, however, such as the black chips, that have you compare to your neighbors to determine rewards, as well as the bonus die for going the furthest without busting that mix in some interaction. Setting up Quacks isn't too bad, but does require you to select ingredient books, arrange all the piles of chips around the table, and make sure players have all of their player pieces. Getting small containers for the ingredients can be helpful in speeding up the process.
While Quacks is not particularly complicated, it is also very different than games that most people have played, so it can take a little bit for new players to wrap their heads around the mechanisms. Additionally, the ingredient abilities being used that game need to all be explained. Setup variability is fairly high, mainly due to the various ingredient books that can be used. The Fortune Teller deck also does a nice job of adding some unique spice into each round.
One of the best things about the Quacks of Quedlinburg is just how addictive it is to build your potion. Each draw from the bag is like a little rush of dopamine as you hope for your chips to come out in the best order. The chip abilities enhance this feeling as there are many times that your strategy excels if chips are drawn in a certain order. Or you might just want to push your luck further since you know one of your best chips is still in your bag.
Additionally, almost the entire game is played simultaneously, so you're never waiting on other players' turns to have your own exciting moments. There is a great energy at the table as everyone is drawing from their bags and making little comments as they draw the perfect chip or get super unlucky.
The variety of ingredient abilities adds some really nice strategic choices in the buying phase and allows each player to build their bag to fit their own playstyle. The base game includes 4 different abilities for each chip color, allowing for near limitless combinations of the abilities in play for each game. Every round begins with a random fortune teller effect, and these spice up the game in fun ways with either immediate benefits to the players or a rule change that can drastically change the upcoming round. The fact that these almost always are positive effects just adds more fun moments onto a game that's already filled with a ton of them. And hey, there are even feel-good moments when you are losing. Trailing players gain rat tails that allow them to start further in their pot the farther they are behind the leader. This helps keep trailing players interested in the game, and we can't deny that it feels pretty great to get a bunch of rat tails to help you catch up.
While the random drawing of chips is much of what makes Quacks fun, the side effect is that sometimes randomness can be really swingy. I have had a game where in the last 2 rounds, when my bag was filled with great ingredients acquired throughout the game, I busted having only drawn a single non-white chip. My frustration was eased by the fact that I have played the game so many times, with the majority of the experiences being very positive, but that could be a huge downer for someone who's on their first play. And some players are simply going to be really put off by the potential of the winner being determined by an exceptional case of randomness.
While the cardboard used for the chips is pretty standard for board games, the fact that they are going to be constantly handled and drawn means they will wear out fairly quickly. Especially the white chips that are always in use. It will likely only take 5 to 10 games before they are really looking beat up. Our recommendation is to play at least 5 games or so to decide if you love the game, and if so, then make the splurge on this awesome Geek Up chip set. But the fact that the upgrade costs almost as much as the game itself, yet feels necessary to give the game longevity in your collection, definitely is a downside.
Quacks is a game that we have had great success introducing to non-gamers, but there's definitely a barrier with how complicated it just looks on the table, and the need to explain all the chip abilities before you get going. It's a small thing, but that perceived difference in complexity can make it a little harder to introduce it to new players that really would love it if they gave it a chance.
And it doesn't come up too often, but there are some chip abilities or combinations that can feel overpowered to the point that players are all pursuing the same strategy. Specifically, we feel the blue chip ability that lets you draw chips equal to its number and then just pick one to add is too strong, and to the point where we choose not to include it in our games. Perhaps it's more of an issue of groupthink and a perceived overpowered ability, but it still can have a negative impact on the experience. And now, let's get into our final ratings for the Quacks of Quedlinburg.
I have had great experiences with Quacks across a variety of different gaming groups, and it is just a game that I have not gotten tired of despite playing it quite a bit, and I'm going to be giving it a 9 out of 10. It's so pure fun. Like, there's not a lot of games that equal, like, just the pure fun factor of drawing from the bag and building out your potion. But it also fills just a nice niche in my collection. You know, I'll play it with more of, like, my gaming group, and like that group enjoys it, but then I'll introduce it to people that have hardly played any modern board games, and they end up really enjoying it, which is just a huge boon, not to mention I've played it with big groups of people, up to 10 people on teams, and that went really well. It's just, that flexibility is huge, and I am such a sucker for variable setup, as I know you are. And, you know, when I'm playing this game over and over with different groups, the ability for me to be able to swap those out with ones I haven't played with, like, really keeps it interesting for me and keeps me wanting to come back to it.
It's
so that's
one of my
really big.
one of my favorite things about that with the chip upgrade or the different chips you can play with is when you play the game once with new people and then they realize that the colors have different abilities each game, it like blows their mind because they had like so much fun with the current. And it's like, wait, it's randomized every game. Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah, and you have to be careful. Like, you know, if I'm playing with people that I know don't want more complexity in their games, I'm like, okay, I'll throw in some familiar ones from the last time you played, so you're not just like completely reinventing. But it is something I just love. And I will say some of my enjoyment of the game is very enhanced by the expansions. I have both the Herb Witches and the Alchemist expansions, which add more books, more ingredients. There's that new, what is it, Loco weed ingredient or something that has some fun effects. So some of that plays into it. But even if I'm just looking at base Quacks, like there's 4 different books of each color. There's just a lot of replay value there. And yeah, I mean, I've played it a lot and I still am having a great time with it.
Yeah, it almost, like when you're playing, it almost has a party feel to it. Like the energy that the group has as you're all kind of drawing together. That's been a really awesome thing. I am also, for my rating, going to give Quacks a 9 out of 10. I'm not just copying you, Ryan. Don't worry. We're very consistent. No, a 9 out of 10. I mean, like you mentioned, it's a game that I'm shocked at how well it works for such a wide range of people. I mean, to the point where I would almost say this is a borderline staple for like a collection in terms of like, what are the first games I would recommend looking into if you're starting out a collection? I mean, this has got to be up there because like you mentioned, you know, gamers love it. And then we play with our parents who don't like any strategy games and they enjoy it. And it's like, man, it's hitting across the spectrum. Tons of fun. And I think just the physical element of pulling the ingredients from the bag, that is just so satisfying. It never gets old, just shaking the bag and grabbing a new ingredient, you know, like it's just that dopamine hit every single time. Yeah. Now that's increased dramatically with the upgrade set. And yeah, that is, you know, it's a positive in that the upgrade set is so amazing, but it's kind of a downside that I borderline feel like you need to get it.
Well, and I always feel bad because I introduce new people to this game and I always have to be like, by the way, when you buy this, like you're not going to get this with it. And I've now like, you know, opened Pandora's box, you know, it exists. But I'm so with you, like that feeling of you hear them clicking in your bag as you're, it is really like the best upgrade I think I've ever made to a game. Yeah,
it legitimately improves the game. Like
totally.
A ton. The only other, I guess, thing that's, you know, maybe a slight con for me is just the fact, I mean, this is just the nature of it being super luck filled, is you can have that game where everything just goes horrible. And, you know, I do feel bad when I'm playing with someone for the first time and that's their first experience because it's like, oh man, just give it another shot. Because that can just happen and it can really sour the fun of it. But overall, it just goes over so well with people and ton of fun. Really enjoy Quacks of Quedlinburg. Those are our thoughts about it. But the real question is Quacks of Quedlinburg a good game for you?
If having your strategy not pan out due to bad luck makes you want to tear your hair out and not talk to your friends, Quacks just might not be the best choice for you.
However, if you love the excitement of pushing your luck and enjoy the strategic customization that comes from deck or bag building games, and you want a game that's accessible enough to teach most people, we think Quacks of Quedlinburg is best in class.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you think Quacks is a game you want to check out, we have a link in the description below. You can also subscribe to the channel for more reviews like this, and we will see you in the next video.